Good morning. This is my JVM. Yes, the JVM has been my dream amplifier for the longest time. And I finally have one. I like this amplifier so much that I love giving the tubes a good sniff after playing it, like everyone. What do you mean you don't do that? Everyone does that. You don't? Oh. Okay then. My tube amp journey started out with PV actually. I started with a PV Valve King that I already, I guess, showed a picture on the channel. Here it is again. Then I had a PV 6505, which was cool and all, but wasn't very versatile, and I actually had to punch the amplifier in order for it to work, so maybe that wasn't the best. But now, about the JVM. First, let's talk a brief history of Marshall Amplification. Everyone knows Marshall. Your grandma played Marshall amplifiers, your mom played Marshall amplifiers. Everyone already played Marshalls, or at least know Marshalls. Marshall was founded in 1962 by Jim Marshall, unsurprisingly. And nowadays, Jim Marshall is a name that is synonymous with guitars and guitar amplifier and the guitar world. He was a drummer, by the way. So yes, the drummer, Jim Marshall, opened up a shop in London in 1962, specialized, in selling a plethora of instruments, mostly drums, because he was a drummer. But there was 3 guitar players that kept bullying him into actually making guitar amplifiers, because importing Fenders into the United Kingdom was very, very, very expensive. So they needed something made in-house that was cheaper. And those 3 guitar players were, small-time guitar players. You might have heard of them. Just some guys by the name of, Richie Blackmore, Pete Townsend, and Jim Sullivan. So, yeah, those guys. Jim Marshall just hunkered down, got all the equipment, got the know-how, and he came up with the JTM45, which was based on a Fender basement circuit. And then, later he released the 1959 Super Lead that was released in 65, oddly enough. And then the GCM 800 in the 80s, and, legendary amplifier after legendary amplifier, and Marshall became a staple in the guitar world. But enough about that. Let's talk about my JVM for now. Here in Brazil, tube amps are more precious than your car usually. And this is my car.
Man ain't no man, ain't got no car. You got a car? No. And you ain't no man yet.
So the JVM line was released in 2007. This amplifier boasts 4 channels, and each channel with 3 modes of operation. Let me give you a rundown of each and every one of them right now. Alright everybody, now I got the Warlock, I have the microphone in my beard, and we're gonna run through some sounds. I'm not gonna twiddle with the knobs too much. You're just gonna, run through all the modes of operation of this amplifier. I have the JVM going through my Brazil speaker cabinet here. It's a 4x12 with 4 Eld Power branded speakers, which is a Brazilian brand. And I'm recording everything with an SM57 down here in the bottom speaker. Okay, so let's go through all the sounds that I can achieve with this thing. So clean channel first. And if I go to the orange mode of the clean channel, it starts getting dirty. And find the red mode, which is already reaching overdriven, territory. Next one is the current channel, which is, in my opinion, the most Marshall of channels of this amplifier. But here we go. Green channel is already a bit dirty. It's juicy, but it gets a lot better when we go to the orange mode of this guy. And finally, the red mode of the current channel. And this is my favorite lead channel. It has 2 lead channels, lead 1, lead 2. And lead 1 is my favorite. I'm going to explain later why I think is my favorite. But here's how it sounds. But you guys are not here for that. Let's go to the orange mode and hear them chugs. Woo! And finally, for maximum metal, we have the red mode. And now for lead 2. Lead 2 is not my favorite. I think is a bit too grindy at times, and it has way too much gain, more than what I know what to do with it. So here's lead 2 on the green mode. Again, not a lot of gain on the green mode. Starts chugging a little bit, but not enough. And the orange mode is when the fun begins. Oh, hell yeah. And red mode gets a bit ridiculous. Yeah, this one is grindy as fuck. But I like every single tone that I can squeeze out of this amplifier, really. And this amp also has an emulated out. Instead of miking it up like I'm doing here, this is some of what I just played through the emulated out. As you can hear, it's pretty decent for what it is. Like, if you're using this guy on stage, you can just give an XLR cable to the sound guy at the desk and there you have it. And one thing that I forgot to mention is, this is type of amplifier with a lot of channels and 3 modes each. Kind of reminds me of another amplifier made in California. Of course, debatable if, Jim Marshall actually took inspiration of the dual rectifier to make this kind of stuff, but it's kind of a coincidence, right? This amp also boasts 2 FX loops, one in series and one in parallel. It has an integrated digital reverb, switchable master volumes, fully MIDI programmable. The only thing this thing doesn't do is your taxes. Now I asked my amp tech friend, the #1 amp man, what he thought about the JVM. And he downloaded the schematics and gave me a little bit of his insights. So the 2 lead channels are voiced differently from each other. As you could hear in the playing demo, the lead 2 channel actually sounds more grindy than the lead 1 channel. The mid dip of the lead 1 channel actually sits at 745 Hz, which is kind of similar to the dual rectifier mid dip. It has a more familiar voicing, while the lead 2 actually sits at 647 Hz, which is slightly behind, meaning it has more high-mid content and it makes it sound a little bit grimier. I'm not sure if I like it that much. I rather much more use lead 1 for all my, high-gain necessities, but lead 2 is perfectly usable as well. The only thing that kind of sucks about this whole lead 1, lead 2 business that the other model of this head and also the combo model, the JVM410h, I think, only has the lead 2 channel. It doesn't have the lead 1 channel. So, if you get the smaller version or the version with less channels, you're actually missing out on the best lead channel of this amplifier. And there's also a Joe Satriani signature that is voiced completely different, and the MIDI implementation is also different. But yeah, those are pretty rare, I think. The clean channel of the amp is actually modeled after a Fender circuit, oddly enough, because it doesn't really say Fender here, it says something else. The crunch channel is really akin to a JCM 800-2203, which is the classic, but it has a lot of revoicing that take a lot of the 2203-ness out of it. So that's why I said earlier it was the most Marshall of channels, because it has really that Marshall DNA in the crunch channel, and I think it's one of my favorite channels on this thing. And the high gain channels of the JVM are basically a Soldano super lead overdrive, but really overgained, if that's even possible, because the Soldano is already overgained to hell. Now this is a nice segue into my insights, because one thing that I noticed is, yeah, this has way too much gain on the lead channels, especially on the red modes. The lead 1 and lead 2 channels, you don't need that much gain, realistically. The output of the serial loop that I use to, extract the preamp sound of this amplifier is a bit too hot. Pedals don't like that too much. That led me having to make 2 whole-ass videos about my noise gates. So I actually made this little volume attenuator. It's just another volume knob to, tame the preamp output a little bit. So about the JVM, very usable amplifier. I love all the tones that I could squeeze out of this guy, and even more. And as you heard, it's pretty good. It's a pretty decent amplifier, and I'm really glad I have it nowadays. Now, it's the moment I would show you guys a demo of the amplifier with, full band, full mix and everything. And I had chosen the song Downfall by Children of Bodom. Alexi Laiho famously used the JVM live and I think on recordings as well. But there are some things in music production that really grinds my gears. So one day I might show you guys the full cover. But for now, let me just show you the intro of Downfall by Children of Bodom being played with the JVM. I know it's a bit anachronistic because the JVM actually came, after the Hate Breeder album, but let's just pretend they came out at the same time. So here we go. This is Downfall by Children of Bodom using the JVM. The intro, at least. So, great amplifier. I love it. But anyways, thanks for listening to my mess once again, everybody. I'm really grateful to everyone who keeps coming back for the channel and watching my videos. So, thank you. Next video will come in a more timely fashion. And take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.